Alright, what's going on, fellow co-creators? Thank you again for tuning in to another episode of Tales of Dordania. As you see, we got a big full table tonight, so going to kind of do a recap for some of our different party members who are out sick and some other things and whatnot. So, currently, Behemoth, Tarek, and they were accompanied by Natiri, who is Theo's like personal kind of, orchestrator in Castle Mars and, kind of bodyguard and takes care of everything around the castle. He sent her with the two of them on a quest to go hunt down some cinder spiders because Behemoth, unfortunately, busted the contents of a crate thanks to the help of Kieran as well. And due to that, Ursus Arctos needed his contents replaced, and so happily Behemoth said he would definitely take part in this quest to return the contents that were destroyed within the crate. Meanwhile, when they got up from that, Kieran did not get up, however, and Theo's men actually rushed to him and took him into the castle along where Kai was being held since they showed up back in the town from Chateau d'If. Now, after they kind of went through town and spent the night over at Lou's Tavern in kind of his little barracks, they then returned back to Castle Mars to kind of talk to Theo, get some more kind of backstory, some more information on the next mission that was in hand, and also to inform him that they needed to go on a little side quest to go replace some contents that were destroyed. In doing so, they were also curious what had happened to Kai and Kieran. Theo informed them that Kai had been cursed. And it wasn't just Kai, it was actually all of the monks from the monastery that Kai learned from had been cursed. And in this curse, Theo actually had never really even seen anything quite like this curse. And so he took Kai under his protection to try to figure out what was going on and save his life. As far as he could tell, he wasn't like dying or anything, but he was more or less in like a paralyzed kind of state. He wasn't moving and responsive, he was kind of in a comatose actually. And when they arrived in town, and after the battle that Kieran had with Behemoth over the crate and what's in the box, the curse actually transferred over to Kieran because of your leprechaun magical nature. And that's the only kind of explanation that Theo had as to why you were affected while the other party members weren't. You're a very rare creature type, and you're not so, you're very prone, let's say, to curses and things like that, just being who you are. So, you guys were both kept under Theo's watch as he was trying to find a way to remedy the curse and reawaken both of you. And meanwhile, the two of them went out of town to go find these cinder spiders, and Thierry joined them on this quest. They found themselves about maybe 2 to 3 miles outside of town, and they actually were tracking some magma ants, and all of a sudden 3 cinder spiders appeared, and apparently they were tracking the magma ants as well. And we had a crazy battle ensue. Magma ants were getting tossed all around by the cinder spiders, as were some of the character members. Natiri did some really badass things with this scimitar sword that she has, and just some crazy acrobatic stuff. Abaddon kept getting released and then contained and then released and then contained. Tarek just had a hard time, let's just say it. Tarek had a hard session last week in his mind. Abaddon was doing some real tomfoolery. He threw Behemoth into a wall, threw other people in. It was crazy, okay? He literally took Behemoth and laid him down on the ground, just hellfire roasted him, just like a chicken nugget that he is, and just left him to be a crisp. And the Thierry actually, luckily, at one point, pimp slapped Terry back to consciousness. And but it was crazy. I mean, it was an insane battle of everything that kind of took place. And they eventually did kill all 3 cinder spiders. And it was rough. Let's just say they were very injured, battered, and torn. It was about 2 or so in the afternoon. They decided to take a very long rest to kind of recover and recuperate from everything that had happened. So, with that being said, that is where we will enter. Who was taking first watch? Who would like to take first watch during this race?
I think it was me.
I think it was you, Behemoth.
I think it was
you said. So, Tarek, you and Thierry are asleep in the tent. Behemoth, you are taking first watch. What would you like to do?
I want to try to read my book some more.
Roll for some animal handling, my friend.
And as Behemoth took first watch and read a little bit more of his book, he was able to understand some more. And he's actually close to being about halfway done with his tome, along with Tarek with the Tome of Wisdom that he is reading as well. And so they went ahead, took first watch. After that, kind of woke everybody up, after maybe about an hour rest, just nothing too long. And then proceeded in trying to get everything they needed from the cinder spiders and the magma ants. And they did succeed in getting the amount of blood from the magma ants that they needed, and they actually were able to get 2 of the cinder spider magma sacs as well. So definitely enough to repay the debt to Ursos Arctos. And after doing that, they then proceeded on making their way back into town.
And as you guys are kind of making your way in, you're crossing through the gates, and Thierry is kind of in the lead. What would you all like to do?
Where are our friends?
In the
We
castle.
should probably head to the house first.
As you guys start making your way through town, checking everything out, you make it up to the castle.
Like, yo, construct. What's up, buddy?
Behemoth, good to see you again. Early on this morning. You look like you had a successful mission, as I smell cinder spider, frankly, all over you and your party.
Yeah, and I'm like, it was a good hunt, man. And the only thing that I don't have on my list that I got extra is this small vial of cinder spider venom. So I'm like tossing it up to you, buddy. Like, see what you can do with that.
He kind of grabs his vial, kind of looks at it. Are you sure about this, Behemoth?
Yeah.
All right, I'll take good use of this.
Good gift.
I appreciate it. Kind of puts it in his pocket. I assume you all are looking to speak with Theo. And Thierry, it's great to see you again. He kind of bows in respect as he addresses you, Thierry.
Oh, yeah.
And
Obviously.
you are higher rank of a vampire than he
Hey,
is.
yo.
You're a
Any
true
of us.
so
Yeah.
you're beast mode.
Like I said,
Um,
obviously.
And not that kind of sign of respect.
Been so humble.
Allow me to
Give him the nod.
go hail Theo for you all. Give me just a moment. And he kind of turns into the castle, and he's gone for maybe 5 minutes or so. He comes back out. Theo will see you all now. Natiri, Theo has this for you, and he said that you may return to your work here at the castle. And he kind of hands a satchel over to you.
Oh, yeah.
And as you check out the satchel,
Yes.
you got a good, 1,000 gold up in there for going on this mission with the crew, with the homies, and all that kind of good stuff. And
Bling bling.
all that kind of bling bling. And you go in the
Stop
castle, and
eyeballing me,
you are out skis. Give a round of applause.
Baby, come back.
Our guest star, Esther, playing as Natiri. She did a great job. And Construct actually is personally escorting you guys all the way up to the castle rooftop where Theo's at.
Cool.
And as you guys get up there, you kind of make your way to, and going through the stair levels is nothing new to you guys. At this point, it's almost second nature. I mean, you guys are like just boop, 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 boop.
Right.
boop,
I even know how the elevator works.
You know exactly. And as you guys kind of make your way to the top, Construct kind of enters. Lord Theo, brought in Tarek and Behemoth as you ordered. I will return now to my keep. And as he kind of goes back down and heads back down, Tarek and Behemoth, you have just walked up on the rooftop. Theo kind of turns around and addresses both of you. Tarek kind of nods to you, kind of nods again as well to you, Behemoth. What would you both like to say and or do?
Hey, I believe we got everything we need to pay the debt.
I'm proud of you, Behemoth. It is good for you to learn how to repay a debt in your young state of being as you are. Have you learned your lesson? And once something is broken, replacing it.
Yes, even though it's been less than a week of my existence.
I know, right? You're learning so much
Like,
in this week.
I know,
Like,
it's such a
great.
fast
We're so
learner.
proud of you. You're such a fast learner. My baby. And you see Theo actually is really proud of you. And he's really happy that you actually learned a lesson and went out, saw that you had done wrong, even though it wasn't your direct fault.
Yep.
And even though you weren't
took
the
care of
cause
business.
of this issue, you still took responsibility, made it happen, and got back what you needed to. So Theo's really proud of you. He kind of looks over at, Terry as well. How did the mission go? What occurred during it?
And I say, he set me on fire!
The telltale.
It wasn't me.
You got any flame retardant for that?
Retarded. You have hellfire flame retardant?
Like, for real, you got a fire extinguisher or something for this demon? I know it wasn't you, but that still doesn't mean that I'm not flammable.
I completely understand that, but I think it's time to...
Theo kind of realizes that you're
Okay, I
kind of
got a
looking down at the
suggestion.
ground and that you're kind of just, you're a little distraught. You're not quite your normal self there, Tarek. And Theo kind of looks at you and he's, Tarek, did you have some trouble with Abaddon?
Well, of course they did.
He sees you kind of still looking at the ground.
He's a demon. He's
We
always
have a lot of
trouble.
issues, Dad.
Abaddon he's always my trouble.
Well, you will be happy to learn that in your absence, I also made a lot of progress in not only helping your friends, but finding out a possible alternative to help you, Tarek. Your friends are down on the second level. They should be waking up any minute now. Unfortunately, I had to perform a bit of a surgery on them both and actually pretty much plant a spell inside both of their minds. And to do so, I had to get direct access to both of their brains. So they've been recovering, and the recovery process has been amplified by my own powers. They should be waking up soon, and they both should be back to their normal state. However, if you see either of them start looking or feeling ill, I need to be contacted immediately.
So don't take him out.
As he says that, he reaches out to both of you and hands you both a golden stone. You can tell this isn't made of gold, but it is a golden stone about the size of a 3/4 inch river rock, They're shaped individually, so you don't have the same, stone. They're shaped individually and unique. And as he hands them both to you, he says, these are sending stones. As long as you have these stones on your person, I can send messages directly to your consciousness, and you can speak as well to me.
Cool. Comms.
Giving you some radios.
Theo, are you there? Are you there, Theo?
As you both take these stones, he looks at you both. Do not abuse these stones.
Well, he's looking at you.
That was the first thing I was thinking of, though.
An overuse of the magic will cause them to break and render them useless. As he says this, he then looks over to you, Behemoth. He says, now, Behemoth, if you will, please pardon Tarek and I need to help him with his issues that have resulted in you being crisp and crunchy and a little bit engulfed in health.
Some Kentucky Fried Chicken.
And I have a polite question for Theo.
Okay.
I'm like, look, I've been going up against a lot of your enemies who tend to be vampires, so I'm not trying to be rude, but it seems like I can't get an enchanted steak in this town, and I really would feel a little bit better about having an enchanted steak on me. It's kind of like a condom. I'd rather have it when I need
Rather have
it.
the protection.
I mean, come on. So I'm just asking, is there any way that I can get an enchanted steak? I'd be reasonable with it. I'd be good with it. I'm not going to kill anything that isn't trying to kill me.
Theo, as you kind of offer this steak up, you kind of pull it out of your pocket, and you even personally whittled it yourself.
I know, it's got my little, I put a little mark in it, it's like my insignia. It's like, there you go.
He's my only letter I know. B. And Theo grabs it. And he just kind of looks up into the clouds, and everything like that, and it's dark, and kind of cloudy like it is, and Castle Mars and Alcardia. And as he kind of looks up to the sky, he starts to what you can guess is praying. And you kind of just see Theo in a state that you've never seen him before in. And you kind of feel similar in the way that you kind of view your father and kind of your maker, Colonel F. Sanders. And you see that Theo is in deep appreciation. He's seeming to talk to somebody. And he's speaking in vampiric language. You can't tell what he's saying. He's speaking in true vampiric. And as he's talking, you see the clouds slowly separate, and a small beam of light just flows down over the stake in Theo's hand.
Cool.
And opposed to other vampires, Theo's skin in his hand is unharmed by the radiant rays of the sun. And you see literally your stake start to slowly go brighter and brighter and brighter. And as it does, it almost gets to like a blinding yellow light, like you were looking directly into the sun.
Cool.
And then just as, as it rose up, it just stops and the light just dissipates. It's back to its normal state. The ray kind of gets almost sucked back up into the clouds, and then they kind of close off and seal up again. And Theo then kind of looks down and offers it over to Behemoth and says, use this wisely.
Thank you very much, sir.
If you misuse this stake, by nature of who I am and in protecting my kingdom, I have no other choice but to kill you. Terry, you kind of, as you know, Behemoth runs kind of past you, you kind of walk over to Theo. Theo's just kind of looking directly at you. And he's looking like at you. Like he's looking through. Like he's looking deep into that kind of temporal state. And you can tell that like even if you said anything at this point, it wouldn't really matter. Theo's like locked his gaze deeply into you. And you can't really even look away. Like you're hardcore, almost like stone petrified, just locking eyes with Theo. And as Theo's looking at you, yes, Terry, are you willing to do whatever it takes to rid this world of Abaddon, overcome your sins, and actually truly redeem yourself from your past?
I am.
As you say that, the gaze kind of stops.
I do.
He kind of just turns and looks away. You kind of just like, what the hell just happened? Like, I don't know what that was. You kind of just feel like you need to walk over. And as you walk over, Theo just kind of starts talking. In my research of the curse that has afflicted your friends, I found many new things throughout the dark arts of what Dracula was using and of the different people he was gathering information from in his early days of running Alacardia back when it was the Isle of Dracula. I realized that his knowledge of wealth was very, very vast. And through my readings of some of his old texts and through his library that was preserved after I killed him, I have found a way to potentially separate you from Abaddon while putting you in charge of keeping him restrained and contained. I feel that this nature would serve as your penance, and your soul would then be made right, and you would be redeemed if you take on the responsibility to ensure that Abaddon remains in prison. And it would also add a benefit for you in your moving forward throughout your life. Are you curious?
I am curious.
Ooh, what's your gun?
I'm a little intrigued. For sure.
Now, I warn you, this will not come easy. It's going to be a combination of a spell and a surgery performed by myself, as well as a tattoo that is performed by Akpu and his brother Inoki at the same time. What I am seeking to do, with your permission, and it's going to take a little bit from you as well. You feel Abaddon kind of stirring. You look down and you reach to activate your tattoo. And as you look down, you realize it's already been activated. And you look up at Theo and realize that he activated it while he was literally just gazing deep into your soul. He looks at you. The reason I've already started and activated your tattoo that you have already is to, one, make sure it works, but two, Abaddon's not going to like what I have to tell you next. And if you should transform in these next few minutes, I have no choice but to restrain Abaddon. And you kind of are realizing like, oh, okay, like Abaddon's hearing all this, like if he, okay, like he knows like he already was pissed with me, thinks I'm kind of double crossing him, and Theo's potentially throwing something new on the table. Theo then holds up a passage kind of from a book, okay, that he kind of tore out, literally ripped out the page from the text. and you see kind of on the whole center of the page this signia. Okay, right down here. And he informs you, this is the soul binding spell. Now the surgery part informs an obsidian shard. Luckily, being on the isle that we are and in its volcanic nature, obsidian is something that I actually have abundance of. The reason we need obsidian is because obsidian is actually one of the few things that can contain souls and spirits from the underworld if performed correctly through the different spells. It's almost like a temporal glass realm for them, and they're literally trapped within the stone. Being that Abaddon is a demon and that he is quite powerful in his nature, the stone needs protection at all times. What I'm proposing to you, Tarek, is literally embedding this stone within you.
Ooh, that'd be hard to get.
To ensure that no one else can get it, achieve it. What better way to protect something than it literally being a part of you? And by then performing this spell, we would then be separating your soul from Abaddon, putting him into a temporal prison, a temporal imprisonment within this obsidian shard. He will try to get out. That is undeniable. It is your job to keep your soul in check, keep your thoughts in check in your mind, and to check in on him from time to time and make sure that he's not trying or figuring out new ways to potentially break free from the shard within you, because Lord knows he will try. Now, there's another issue with doing this. The surgery part is going to be what's hard on your health. We can either implant the obsidian shard in your heart, or we can implant it into your mind. It will literally be in your forehead or like right here in your chest, pretty much. Okay. Then, what I am proposing on doing to weaken Abaddon and to make controlling him and keeping him contained in this temporal imprisonment easier for you, Aku and Inoki would then tattoo this soul-binding spell literally directly either on your head or on your chest. In doing so, I will try to contain some of Abaddon's powers for you to use at your own discretion and will. Now, this abyssal power that you would be granted can go one of two ways, and it really depends on what your mind state is while we are actually performing the surgery and the tattoo itself. What I'm hoping for you, Tarek, is that once it is completed, you'll be able to activate this abyssal power and make it almost a druidic transformation and transform into something positive of nature that you can use to kind of spite Abaddon and make him feel even weaker past the state, using his power for something light and something good. Into you will be serving your penance by maintaining his status quo, keeping him retained, and you trying to retain, regain the nature of this world back to a healthful and peaceful state. Are you willing to undergo this procedure?
Yeah.
Roll for intelligence.
As he's gonna fight this. You better roll nat.
20.
Oh yes! Oh, called it beast. Oh, dude. that was great.
You feel Abaddon, let me out.
No.
And as he goes to kind of like just break through these bonds within your soul, you literally
summon the will
close
within
your
yourself.
eyes, just in the middle of Theo kind of telling you this information, and you cry out, I mean verbally, not just in your soul, no! And like Theo's kind of just like, yep, no, like Theo knows what's going on. Theo's like, yep, he's fighting. Theo understands completely what's going on, what's happening. Theo's still looking at you. The only thing it's going to cost is your time and some of your druidic nature. Meaning, he explains this in a much more elegant nature, okay? But you would have to give up you're level 3, right? You'd have to give up a 3rd level spell slot and a 2nd level spell slot. Permanently. I mean, you can't just like learn a new spell anytime.
Yeah, like everything has a cost, bro.
Those spells permanently from those different slots. Theo looks at you and he says, Very well.
When can we do it?
I will hail for Akpu and Inoki to join us immediately. We're going to try for this today.
Word.
And as Tarek agrees to all these terms, Theo tells him that he needs to first go down to wake Kieran and Kai from their sleep as they have been recovering, kind of explain to them what's going on with the bigger mission at foot with going to High Oak Forest and checking on the monastery, and how he is about to undergo a surgery to help kind of contain Abaddon better. He kind of is going to then inform them also kind of where things are throughout town, because this is actually Kai's first time here in Alacardia, and he's actually conscious and awake for. And he tells them that they should kind of try to link up with Behemoth if they can, and make their way back to the castle to check on him once maybe the surgery is done. Tarek understands completely and does as he's instructed. And Kai and Kieran are now awake and informed about the curse and how they both kind of fell under it. And during this whole time, Kai's actually been having visions of the monastery where he studied under, literally just being in flames, and his fellow peers getting tortured, getting ripped apart, his masters literally getting killed before his very own eyes. And it has been a good time while he's been kind of in a coma. So he's very happy to be awake now, even though he's blind and can't really see much. He at least knows he's not sleeping and that these dreams are over. And so after understanding where everything kind of is throughout town from Tarek and understand that he's about to go into surgery mode, they go out into town and kind of venture out into the streets. And Behemoth actually at this point is already in Ursos Arctos' shop and making amends for the debt and repaying everything that needs to be paid. And Ursos is beyond thrilled and also has Behemoth's loot completely ready for him, and tells him kind of how it works, what the enchantment does. And so now Behemoth does have his enchanted loot, and he is beyond excited and heads over to Lou's Tavern. Meanwhile, Kieran and Kai kind of split up, and Kieran goes over to the barracks actually to begin training and to also see if they by chance have a fire that he could use to try to start building and mending all these different gun pieces into kind of a blunderbuss, into his first actual gun that he's had for a very, very long time. And he goes over and actually befriends some of the different soldiers, and he actually meets kind of the general of Theo's army, Lupus Canes, and they actually, kind of become friends, and he decides he wants to spend the night in the barracks so he can try to go out and go training with them in the morning. And he then tries to work on his gun parts and unfortunately fails miserably at putting all the gun pieces together. He unfortunately has the parts, but in trying to bond them, he actually ends up breaking the frame of his blunderbuss, which is very unfortunate. And then we go over to Kai, who is trying to make friends with Ursos Arctos and get himself a much more powerful staff than the stick he has been using up until this point. And unfortunately, he is still not quite that wealthy, and the staffs that he's looking at have a pretty big price tag. And so he tries persuading again and again and again Ursos to drop the price, to find a way to get a discount, to figure out if he can do a favor, and he is rolling terribly on all these persuasion checks. And he's just not doing a very good job either of making friends with Ursos. And after all of it, he kind of gets fed up and threatens to kill Ursos's pet parrot that he has in his shop. Now, Ursos does not find this very amusing and decides to show this young Thundercat what his true power really is, and literally levitates young Kai about 5 feet in the air and throws him completely out the front door of his shop about 15 feet into the street. And Kai lands on the ground with so much force, he knocks himself unconscious, and things go a little bit blacker than usual. And that's kind of what happens with everybody in the streets. Meanwhile, Terry goes back upstairs to undergo his surgery, and things are pretty crazy. I mean, Akpu, Inoki, and Theo are all there, and it starts out pretty good, but Abaddon starts fighting back, and literally Theo is having to use a lot of crazy ice spells to try to freeze, to try to slow down Abaddon, to try to slow him down and to knock him back into the temporal soul state in Tarek's soul so they can continue with this procedure. And it gets so bad to the point where literally Theo ends up having to knock Abaddon back into the soul with a chromatic orb and deals so much damage that he is actually just killed Tarek. And in realizing what he does, this happens.
As you roll this natural one, Tarek,
You didn't hear that.
in your surgery that's going on in your body, some bad stuff's gonna happen to you, unfortunately. Okay.
Well, of course.
Theo is literally going to see that life has been fading from your body, and that literally this toll from not only this procedure, but the damage he's had to inflict on you to contain Abaddon and to make sure Abaddon remains while while Aku and Inoki are working on tattooing you and everything. He realizes that you're not doing the greatest, and he is going to actually do... He's gonna do some crazy shit. I wasn't thinking I'm gonna quite have to do this, but he's literally gonna do it. All right, here we go. In your last breath, you see Theo literally raise up his left hand, and you see the ring that is on his pinky glow green. And as it does, all of a sudden, you, as your soul state, realize Theo is literally rewinding time, and everything around you is changing. You are literally viewing Ursos you're using Akpu and Inoki tattoo in reverse. You're viewing pretty much everything from the past minute or so happen in reverse. And we have just gotten to the moment where Theo is about to smash you with the chromatic orb and just kind of, knock Abaddon down again. He has literally turned back time by about a minute or so. You are aware of this. Theo has, for whatever reason, allowed you in your soul and your consciousness to be aware that he has been reversing time after seeing that you were literally quite about to die. And as he does, he stops it, and you literally kind of fall back into your body. And before Abaddon can retake over, causing Theo to smash his chromatic orb into you, Theo literally just he jumps literally on top of the table and just hands on top of your shoulders, pushing you down onto the table, locks his eyes into your eyes. Theo has then just entered into your soul state. And as he does so, you see Theo literally start throwing out chromatic orbs, along with rays of frost, along with cones of coal, and you see Theo literally just start unleashing in your soul on Abaddon. And I mean, he's hitting him with blows that are not only damaging Abaddon, they're straight up freezing his arms, and then Theo's literally blowing his arms off of Abaddon's body pretty much. Theo is just fucking Abaddon up at this point, okay? Make a Constitution saving throw. 19?
No, just 10.
10? Okay. As you're doing so, Theo's doing everything he can to try to fight for you right now. And your body is still getting tattooed up and eaten up by Funanoki while he's fighting for you pretty much in your soul state. And as Theo is just wrecking Abaddon kind of beside your side, you're really just kind of on the ground, kind of in your soul state, kind of temporal realm, just kind of viewing everything that's kind of transpiring, the whole time shift, everything that's kind of going on. You realize now that, damn, Theo's powerful. Boy can just fucking reverse time like that. And wasn't trying to reveal that to you quite yet, but gotta save him, boy. And as he's doing so, and as he's just literally wrecking Abaddon, full on just fighting this demon and freezing portions of him, breaking portions of him off, literally just breaking Abaddon down almost to nothing. Abaddon's kind of just a shadowy mist at this point, with just kind of a head that's kind of floating within, your soul state. The cage has been shattered within, everything along those lines. And as he's doing so, you see Theo literally hold out his hand, and he literally just seems to shoot these golden, kind of crimson bonds out from his hand. And as they do, they shoot all over Abaddon's body. I mean, they literally almost seem to wrap and entwine Abaddon within these bonds. And as he does, you see Theo then just bring him down back to the ground, and you see a new cage start to form around Abaddon. This cage is hella golden. This cage looks hella magical and hella powerful and enchanted. Roll an intelligence check with advantage. As you're viewing this, and as you're kind of seeing everything happen in your state, you hear Akunonoki, Theo! 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 And you all of a sudden realize they're trying to get a hold of Theo, who's currently in your soul and in your mind. Theo literally, as he finishes up this kind of enclosure that Abaddon's in, he looks at you and says, stay strong there. He kind of makes, a golden portal and kind of jumps back out, and he's back into the real realm. He's back into his own body and everything along those lines. And as he does so, Akunonoki, Theo, we need your help. We need containing the angel blood within his body. The demon's trying to separate everything from the mark. And you see Theo literally make yet another room around your body to try to lock down Abaddon. And you're just like, fuck Abaddon. This is crazy fucking demon. This dude is just nonsensical. And as Theo drops this rune across your body, you almost feel a slight sense of peace. And you realize that Abaddon's starting to dissipate from the cell and start to go literally within this obsidian stone that has been planted within you. And the bonds of the cell that Theo had made of these golden bonds all of a sudden start to turn kind of black and almost kind of like a glossy, kind of a glass shard, kind of like obsidian, black. And it's almost a reflection that it makes within this kind of imprisonment. And you see Abaddon literally just bound by these deep, dark kind of soul chain bonds. And you see Abaddon's reflection cast all throughout this kind of prison, like almost a million mirrors were kind of set around him. And Abaddon really has nothing better to do now than to gaze upon himself and the filth and the destruction that he has caused amongst others, and just to be captured in that kind of tormented state of how much he's hurt people and how much he has actually done to people. Meanwhile, you wake up and you're on the table. And Theo kind of comes over to you. Terry, don't move, just rest. You kind of close your eyes. After that kind of an encounter, your armor class has been permanently reduced by 2.
I have an armor class to begin with.
I know, right? Permanently been reduced by 2. Your body's pretty weak.
You're half asleep.
Pretty weak. It's natural armor, and that's kind of what's been happened to it. As well, Abaddon took a little bit of your life as you're trying to contain him and whatnot. You lose 6 of your total health. So just reduce it by 6.
So the hit point maximum?
Yep, hit point maximum gets reduced by 6. Abaddon steals a little bit of that. And you realize, kind of as you're closing your eyes, that it's done. That the procedure has been completed, and that you have been separated from Abaddon. As far as everything else Theo talked about, and as far as the magic and the kind of essence and the power that you could still retain, you're not sure about as you kind of close your eyes and fall asleep. You're not sure necessarily what's going to quite happen, kind of here on forward with that. But you are positive of the fact that Abaddon is no longer cursed directly to your soul. He has been removed, and he is literally in prison within your body. And with that, that is where we'll end for tonight, with some different party members on their way to some different stuff. Master Artificer trying to forge his first blunderbuss. We have a monk here who is trying to make some new friends, or potentially not, by threatening their birds and their different pets. And we have Thierry just chilling back at the castle. Again, thank you, Esther, for guest starring and everything like that. And Tarek has finally survived the procedure of, possibly separating Abaddon from himself. And Behemoth is nowhere to be found, really. We're not quite sure where he's going to be when we come into this next session. But thank you all for tuning in to another session of Tales of Dordania. Thank you for checking everything out. Join us again on the next time. Catch you, and God bless.